versus we can see our grades.
That time I saw something with grades on meet. You're not marked yet, not marked yet, but we could see that time the meet. This thing.
What grades? I don't see any grades anywhere.
Yeah, see, grade calculation overall.
Oh no, this is just the setting. Nothing. No grades there yet. We've not done any grading at all.
Yeah, like when you do it, we'll be able to see.
That if it's shared, yes. I mean, there's a setting there which says what shared and things like that. Okay, so say we've got something like this, right? I mean, let's say we've got a grid of points, uh, which is something like this. It's not very user friendly. This whiteboard. And what we had done was we had figured out how to draw a line like this, right? Something like this. Do you all remember how to do this? And also what we had done is, I'll just repeat this right now.
Geometry translate and nerves curve.
No. This is no nerves curve or anything here. Here we're just drawing lines from one point to another. I mean diagonal lines, right? Something like this.
Yeah.
I'll just repeat that once to refresh your memory. And then what I want, I'll show you what I want. And then what we will try to do is we will try to do the same thing. We will apply a different kind of approach to do what we did with Rupesh's. Instead of looking at it as a module today, we look at an entire stretch. Okay, so one entire row we will kind of create rather than creating a module. And eventually the entire facade at one shot without repeating and translating like what we did yesterday. Okay, so I'll say new today. And first I will create a list of points. And we just put it along the x-axis. So I'll say 0 to let's say 0 to 50 dot 10. So about 5 points. Okay, these 5 points we created. Now I'm going to create another 5 points, say about 5 units above. Okay, I can do that by just translating these points, right? I can use the translate node. So I can go to this direction is z-axis. Okay, and distance, let's say, is 10, or we'll change it to 5 or whatever required. Okay, so we got another set of points. What's the other way to do this? I mean, the other way to do this would have been to just repeat this whole thing, say point dot by coordinates, and I'll say 0 dot dot the same thing, 50 dot dot 10 comma 0 comma 10. This would have also created the same thing. So what's the difference between this and this? Here, this is actually as good as comma 0 comma 0. Okay. If you don't specify the y and z axis, automatically it's taken as y and z coordinates automatically is taken as 0. Here I've specified x, y, z. X, y, z. Okay. So here we got 2 sets of points. Now what did we do to get those cross lines? We dropped, like say from this thing. Now if you want to get this kind of a pattern, we will we dropped from this list, we dropped the first point, and from this, sorry, from this list, we need to drop the last point because it crosses from here to here. And on this list, we need to drop the first point because this is not used. We cross from here to here, right? So what did we do? We said drop items. And for the first list, we said drop -1 because we want to drop the last item. So wait, I'll switch this off here. I'll switch off the preview of this. So basically now the last item is dropped here. For this, we dropped the first item. Right? So we got a list like this. And then we use the line by start point, end point, and drew those diagonals. Okay. Now say this is like one exercise to finish to have one row of these things. Do you think you can figure out? I'll take this further before I try to connect this to what we did yesterday. Now let's say we have, instead of something like this, we have a grid of points. Okay, and let's say we've got two more things like this. I mean, two more sets of points. Okay, but these set of points are going to be I'm just creating a grid. Okay, so if this was at 10, I'll make this 20 and 30. Okay, I'm just creating a vertical grid. Now, say I want a similar thing to happen at every row. What will I do? I will probably need to, the same kind of action will need to happen at every row, right? You see how, I mean, the same action, if I repeat at every row, taking this as the first row, second row, first row, second row, first row, second row, I'll be able to repeat this action. Okay, but does this feel right? I mean, repeating this like this for every row. For example, now if you have 10 rows, do you think you will be copying this and doing this 10 times? It sounds wrong, right? As I've said many times before, in computation, if you are repeating yourselves, there most probably is a better approach. Okay. So now let's just try to explore that better approach. I'm just going to get rid of all of this. In fact, I'm going to start from scratch. We're going to try to do something like this, like what I demonstrated. Okay. So now instead of creating just two lists of points like that, let's create a grid of points. Okay. Now, so here I'll say 0 to 50 to 10. I'll put this along the x-axis. And this thing I'll put it the y-axis, z-axis, and I'll change the lacing to cross product. So we got this grid of points. Okay. Now the same thing, if you want to do this in a code block, how do you handle this? Replication guide is what is the challenge. Okay. So how do you create a replication guide in a code block? Now I'll just replace this with I'll say A, and I want this also to be A. That is corresponding to your X and Z. And that is this, right? So I'll put this in there. When I put this in here, if I just leave it like this, that is by that auto lacing, that here also we got something like this when we didn't change it to cross product. Now to make this cross product, what do we need to do? We put something called a replication guide. Put a 1 like this within these brackets and a 2. Okay. So this is the same as this
Sir, can you repeat
cross
that
product. Sorry?
replication? Can you repeat that replication, what you were explaining?
Okay. Basically, what this replication guide does is it is, if you want to type out this thing in a code block like this text, and you want to apply a cross product to these two values, then you do this thing called, I mean, you use this thing called a replication guide, where this, now when you put this 1 and 2 like this in brackets, every item of 1, every item of, now because A is actually is 6 items here. Okay, so cross product, when you're using cross product, you want 0 0 0 10 0 20 0 30 0 40 0 50, then you want 10 0, I mean 10 20 10 30 like that, right? So basically you want multiple points. So if we do not have this, this is as good as this. Wait. This and this is the same. Auto. You just get this list of points. Now, if you want cross product in your code block, you use this thing called replication guides. Replication guides is a can get very complex, but this is just the start of it. Okay, so the basic application of replication guides is do this to get cross product and things like that in your code block. Okay.
So what is that 1 and 2 of the replication guide? Like what does it indicate?
This is just the way it is done, Shannon. And basically, if I make this 1 and 1, it is as good as like both of them are the same. When I make this 1 and 2, basically every item of this kind of it creates a relation with every item of this one here, every sub item of this with every sub item of this. Now, for example, now you see here it says everything here is 0 0 0 and 0 10 20 30 40 50 on the first list. Okay, now just see what happens when I interchange the 1 and 2. What has happened? Now you get 0 10 20 30 40 50 here, and you get 0 0 0 here.
Yeah.
Okay, now what is this? How would you have achieved this otherwise? This is a concept that we worked on last time. Okay, this is as good as transpose. Basically, what it has done is it has inverted the rows and columns. Last time we used transpose, right?
Transpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, if you do this here, this thing, the rows and columns get inverted. So you can do the same thing. Transpose can also be achieved by just interchanging these numbers here. By the way, this is a much deeper concept. For now, I'm just going through this so that you're just aware of it. Okay. This one will also get to, like, replication guys will also see in some places it goes like this. Here it's not going to make any sense, but I'm just simply, and this gives you different combinations and things like that. Okay. Here it's of no use right now. It can get quite complicated, but this is the start. So just be aware of it for now. And we'll see. I mean, when we really need to use it, I'll see if I can try to explain it. Right now, we don't really need it. Okay. So now, what have we got here? We've got a grid of points, and now if we want to kind of create those lines like we wanted to do, we created earlier. First, now let me just forget about the diagonal lines. I'll first create lines just from this point to this point. Okay, so if we want to do that, and I want to do that at every I don't want to do it only for this, I want to do it for everything. So basically I want to create vertical lines, which if you simply want to look at it, it's like from here to here, but I don't want to take a start point from here and a start point and an end point here. I want start point, end point, start point, end point, start point, end point, like that. Okay, I want multiple lines, and I'm going to create all vertical lines throughout like this. Okay, so how am I going to do that? So basically, what is it? I want this start point, which is this one. Okay, and I want this to be the end point. Sorry, this is the start point. I want, oh, this is going this way. Okay, I will transpose this because right now it's making sense to explain it the other way. Okay, now say this is the start point here, and this is the end point. I want everyone, and then I want the next one also to be start. I want this to be the start point, and I want this to be the end point. Okay, so what do I need to do here if I want to create something like that? First, I need to get
take item.
Sorry?
You have to take item of from those lists 0 and 1, then 2 and 3.
Correct. But see, now I want to do this in one step. Okay, that means I want to take this as start point, this is the end point, and I want to do that continuously at one shot. It has to happen for everything.
Okay.
How? You want to try to guess? Okay, so this is where I'll just explain this out. So basically, this is where we're going to try to start grouping things. Okay, so first what we will do is we will extract only the start points of everything. Or leave this, I'll leave this as it was only. 1 and 2. This is 1, 1, 1. And this is you get how these things, these indices work. So basically, this is all at the sublist 3 has all these indices. Sublist 4 has this, and sublist 5 will have this. So now we want to, at one shot, tackle the grid rather than look at every individual point. Though we will need to look at individual points, we'll also have to tackle the grid. We want to do things at one shot rather than that module kind of approach that we used yesterday. Okay. So let me just say, I want to get the first item of every sublist. That would be, I want to get this point, this point, this point, this point, this point. Okay, now if I want to get this first item of every sublist, and I want to join it to the second item of every sublist, what do I do? How do I do this? Get item at index. What will I do? You guys want to try to guess? I want to get the first item of every sublist, and I want to get the second item of every sublist. I will just plug this here, plug this in here, and here I will say 0, and here I will say 1, right? What will happen? I will get this side, this whole list. I'll switch this off. I get these two lists. One is this, one is this, which is not what we wanted to do, right? We wanted to get something else. We wanted to get the first item of everything here and first item of everything here. So that means I actually wanted lacing to be longest. Now what does it do? It picks out every item here and every item here. Okay. Now what's the next thing I want to do? Okay, now here, let's say I now put that start point, end point, and I create a line. It's created this line, as I said. Now I want this line, I want lines like this at every grid without necessarily typing this out. So what do I do for that? Now I know that I want the start point to be this, start point to be this, start point to be this. So basically up to index 4, and I want the start point to be here. So I will say 0 dot 4. Okay, because this is the start point. End point, I want it to be from 1 to 5.
Now, if you just change the lacing, it will come properly.
Yeah. Okay. Here now I had to change this lacing to cross product because this was also a list and this is also a list. Okay. The other way to do that was to leave this at auto and fiddle with these things here. Okay, I'm screwing up somewhere. I'm just going to leave this as it was earlier, I think, because I don't seem to be figuring this out properly right here. This has to be lacing, has to be longest. This is right. So if not cross product, you change the levels and you get this way. Now lacing had to remain longest simply because we are accessing every sublist. Okay. Now what do we want to do? Now let's say what we've done is we've kind of created these lists basically and we join the top to the top. Now say we want to create that kind of diagonal bracing that we created manually. How do we do that here? I mean, what will we need to do? We'll need to kind of now this is the start point, right? I mean, this is the start point of everything. I'll just switch this off. I'll switch this off also. Okay, so now this is the start point of every line. Now what we want to do is we want these to continue to remain the start points, but this last thing does not need to have the start point, right? So what will we do here? We need to drop the last item, right? So now we need to drop the last item of each of these lists. So I'll go to that drop item at index, drop items. Okay, and I'll say -1 because it's the last item I want to drop. What happens here if we do this? We kind of dropped this last row, last column. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is, instead of each sublist having 4 items, we want each sublist to have 3. Instead of each sublist having 5 items, that is from 0 to 4, we want it to be from 0 to 3, that is 4 items. So what we need to do is lacing longest. Now we've got 3 items in each list. Oops. Four and 3. What's wrong? Something's not right. What's right? 0, 1, 2, 3. No. Sorry. I am getting this wrong. We got this here. And I seem to have got it right without doing the. Okay, this one I don't have to do this lacing here. I need to drop this last item here. So I've dropped it by just dropping the last list. This is 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. The same way. Sorry for the confusion because I've got the transpose wrong, so I'm getting it all wrong. In a similar way, here what I need to do is I need to drop the first item. So here when I drop the first item, sorry guys, what am I goofing? I'm doing something wrong here. From this list, I need to drop the 1, 2, 3, 4. This is okay.
So I think you need to drop it from this second list. This get item index.
Yeah, here this one, what am I doing? I'm doing something wrong. I'm not getting what I'm doing wrong.
You want to drop the list of this last line, right?
No, I need to drop this. No, I need to drop this list. So I need to drop one item from this list. And this should work. 1 minute.
Sir, you are in that L2, it has to be 0, no? It is not required actually.
Huh?
So
this is the start. And this is the end. No, it's coming now. Come now.
Drop item 2 and 1.
Huh? No, this will work. So basically what we've done is what I started with by kind of showing you all how to kind of do this separately. This whole thing now is done in just one step. Okay. Similarly, this basically, okay, where all did I mess up for y'all now? How did I, where did I confuse y'all now?
Can you repeat which item you dropped, sir? Like which list was dropped? Like from there.
It's not wrong, Shannon. Basically, we'll have to figure out how. I mean, we'll have to understand the list structure and basically alter it. Okay, so it's not about going wrong here. It's about figuring out how. I mean, or why. We.
No,
I
I'm
thought.
asking which list you dropped. I didn't.
No,
Sir,
when I goofed up, did it
sir,
make sense the way I went about trying to resolve it? Did it make sense to you?
Yeah,
sir,
It made sense.
Hmm?
sir, can you explain the list structure once again?
Okay. Now, do you all want to try to work with me? I'll leave this alone. Now, let's try to create another set of uh, braces in the other direction. What do you think we need to do? Like now, to get a cross bracing, what do you think we need to do? Like right now, we've gone
we
from
have,
here to here, right?
we have to change the that drop item connection.
Correct. So now the same, we'll have to retain this, but let's say we want to have a cross like this
Yeah, we
also.
have to cross connect those like with get item index. We have to cross connect with lost list drop item.
Yeah, we'll actually need the same thing, Rupesh. We'll need to do the same thing, but have to just do something else. For example, now let's go about it now. Now let's say now 0 to 4 basically was getting us these points here to here, right? Now, what should the first row be? Here, this is the first row, right? This is the start. This list gives us the start points of all the lines here. Are you guys getting it? No. This first list that we extracted from here
Yeah.
gives us the start points of all the lines. If you look at this, this basically gives us all the start points of the lines. Right? It does not include the endpoint of the line. Making sense? So if this has to be the start, if this list was giving us the start points of all the lines, now for the braces in the other direction, what should be the start point of the lines? It should still be the same. Here we dropped the last item, right? Here we dropped the last item. This one we dropped. Now, if you want the bracing to come in this direction, what should we drop?
+1.
See, right now we've gone, you see these lines going from here to here, here to here, here to here. Now we want the lines to go from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here.
So we need to drop the first list.
So
Correct.
this drop item will get +1 and the
Plus
second
and
So
minus
drop
one.
item will be, yeah.
yes. So basically we use this exact same thing. Only thing this time we dropped the first item. Okay. So when we drop the first item, what have we got? These are the points we've got left now. So now these are going to be the start points of all the lines. Making sense? No? Because this is going to be the start point of the, see, this is going to be the start point of a line. It's going to go like this.
Yeah.
This is going to be the start point of a line. It's going to go like this. Start point like this. Start point like this. Start point like this. Start point like this. Start point, end point. So these would have been end points. So that is why none of these are going to be start points. So they are not part of your list. Okay? Making sense? This is something you guys have to really try out, because this is something which you'll need to understand to create any of these patterns and things like that. Even Rupesh's pattern, if you need to create it, it's the same concept. It's almost exactly the same concept. It'll just start getting complicated. That's all. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the endpoint. So I'm going to take this very same points, try to understand the list structure basically. I'm going to take the very same points, and this time we're going to drop the last item. Okay, so now we've got all the endpoints of that correspond to this list. If these were the start points, these are the corresponding endpoints. And in the same way, we're going to kind of do this. Okay, so you see how you got this cross grid? Now, what's the point of doing this? Now, once you've built this entire structure, now say instead of 1:50, I'll say 1:100. Done.
So this crisscross I am not getting.
Why?
I have followed the same steps, but I don't know why it's not coming.
Why aren't you getting Sneha? There's something wrong with what I'm doing also, I think. No, it's okay. You couldn't have followed the same steps. Lacing or something you'd have got wrong.
Lacing of it's auto, right? Lacing of list drop items.
Yes.
Then it's the same actually.
Have you got the first step right?
Yeah, I have got till those lines we get. I have got till there, but I'm not getting the crisscross.
Sir, lacing of the least drop, least get at index has to be 2, right?
Sorry?
Least get item index, it should be 2 or 1.
No. Here basically now there is one thing that I need to do. Here I've said 0:4, and here I've said 1:5. Now this needs to kind of start corresponding to the length of the list.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have to, Sneha, I'll get back to you. Let me just finish this up.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can.
So here we'll say list count, or not either list count. Sorry. So here I will say 0 is. Let's say we put this 100 that we put. Okay, I'll put list count only here. Let's say count. This is a list count. So we got, basically it's telling us that we got, say, 10 items, 11 items, because here I'm just reading that square grid. Okay. So here we need this to be 0:count minus 2. Make sense?
No,
No.
sir. It is confusing.
Okay. Basically, wait, first I will stick to what we had earlier. Okay. Here now the list, and here I had made this 0:4, right?
Yeah.
And this is how it worked. Yeah. Now, what is the count of this list? 6. We've got 6 items in this list.
Correct.
No?
Yeah.
We've got 6 items. We've got 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But the index starts from 0. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And we want to eliminate this last item. So we put 0:4. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now if you want to connect count to this, I have to, the count is actually in, if I want to relate the index to the count, I can't minus 1. I have to minus 2, because for the index you start counting from 0, while when you're counting numbers you start counting from 1. And here I want to minus 1 from the index. I think I'm super confusing you. Just see if this makes sense.
No, sir. What you're telling is making sense. You can continue. Like.
Because the count is 6, that's why it's -2.
Exactly. Okay, because you need the -2 and not -1 because index itself is already -1 when you're counting, right? Like second item is index 1. I'm just hoping you guys understood this, okay? And here what I'm going to say is, I'm going to say 1 to C minus 1. I'm going to fix this into this. Same way here, I'm going to say C minus 2. Connect the count to this. Same way here, I'm going to say C minus 1. And connect this count to this. Okay. Now let's make this, I'd say, side, and I'll put in a slider. I'll say integer slider only for now. I'll say minimum we'll say is about 20 and say maximum we'll say is 500. And say fit this into this. So if it is 20, we just have 2 blocks, right? Because the spacing we've kept is 10. We can make that also a variable. Now let's see what happens here as we flex it. So you have built the structure and automatically everything it scales up as required. Now let's play with this a little more if you want. I mean, now say the spacing also, we want, I'll call this one we won't fiddle too much with this because it starts getting very complicated maybe. I'll say if we'll keep this gap, the spacing to be from, let's say 5 to 20. And right now it is 10, right? I'll make this like say I or something like that. I feed this into this. So now this is what it was. Let me just switch off everything other than the grid as such. Preview. So now if you guys fiddle with this, one is this one changes, the others
Sir,
change this.
I don't get it. Like you did 500, you got the same. Up to 500, you got the same thing, and now up to.
Shannon, what I did in here is a very small issue. Don't bother about this too much. Worry about the concept. Here, all I've done is in the slider, I've kept the maximum limit as 500 because otherwise I can it can go much further and the system might hang. That's all. This one doesn't really matter. What I've done here is a very is not very relevant to the workflow as such. Okay.
Okay.
It's not something that you need to break your head about. Don't break your head about this at all. This is nothing. What I just did in this integer slider is just I'm setting the limits, a minimum and a maximum. That's all.
Okay.
I'm just trying to ensure that you do not say that the width has to be more than 500. Because if it starts becoming too big, your system might hang. That's all. Nothing else. No other reason. So don't bother about this. Okay. Here also, like I'm saying, I'm setting the integer to a minimum of 5 so that you don't set your gap to 0. Okay. So that's all. So all I'm trying to say is that the spacing between the points is 5 at the minimum and a maximum of 20.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Okay, so it's nothing critical to the workflow. This is very important for you all to understand. This can be further simplified, but I will not further simplify it because I think you need at least so much to kind of figure out what we've done here. And I'm going to give you all one exercise and wrap this up for now. Okay. And this exercise will sound very simple. And you just have to, you guys have to figure out, understand how to do it. There will be one complex step for it, but I'll see if I have to say that to you all or not based on how you guys come up with this. Okay. Now what I want is, here I have created a square grid. I want you guys to create a rectangular grid. Right now I've given only one side. I want you all to create two sides. I mean, give two dimensions. Got it?
So can you
Right.
sketch and explain?
Huh?
Can you sketch and show how?
No, okay. All I'm trying to say is, 1 minute. I want something like this. Like here I've got, say, 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 points. Okay. And what I've done here is a simplistic thing where I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a square grid.
Yeah.
I want you all to create a rectangular grid. Basically, these two can't be A and A. It'll have to be A and B maybe.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
Okay. But when you do that, this list, for it to become flexible, this list count will be a challenge. How you all handle that is what I want to see. Because then the list count can't be just be this 7 that I've got, because your sublist will
Yeah.
have a different your sublist will have a different count, and your entire list will have a different count, and you'll need to use both. Right now, if you see the sublist, the total number of items in the list is 6, because we have 7 rows. Okay, and within each sublist also there are 7 items. That is because each row has 7 columns. I mean, has 7 items. But once you change this to A and B, once it changes to A and B, it changes. Okay, now I've got 7 items here within this, but I will have 5 items here. Not, just a minute. What have I done? S minus 2 I. Oh, S minus 2 is very small. Sorry. So how much do we do? S minus 10. Okay, so now here we should have your items. No, I'm not getting. What am I doing wrong? No, here I'm still getting the same number. Okay. Minus 3. Okay. Here, see, now here we got 9 items here, and we got 6 items here. So what do you get? You get overall you get these 7 items, but within this now you have 8. You have 9 items. So we can't use the standard 7 anymore. There is something else that needs to be done. Only then it's going to work. Otherwise, it's not going to kind of flex properly. You'll still get something like this, but it will not be accurate. Make sense? How confused are you all?
So we will try.
We'll
You have to
try
try.
and get back to you.
I want you all to try this, because this what I will need now is basically I want you to ensure that you all also fiddle with all this, because this will not work. Even though it looks right, it is not right. Okay? Because here when let's make this a little more.
So I didn't understand why we are using two integers.
Sorry?
Why we are using two integers, different integers?
Where are we using 2 integers?
Like S and I, two different integers. Why are we using?
There are 2 different variables we are trying to create. What does this do, Sneha? I mean, yeah, basically, what is this? If you look at this, it's created 0, 12, 24. Okay, so how has it done that? Let's get back to some number that we can recognize. Say I'll make this 2 and I'll make this also 2. Now what has this done here? What is I? I is the interval.
Okay.
Okay, and 20 is, you see how that grid also changed here?
Correct. Huh.
Okay, and 2 because only we've got, that is because we're doing something else here. 2 is the interval basically. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now if I change this, this is affecting only this. And if I increase this, it increases the length.
Hmm.
Got it?
Correct. Understood.
You basically have to just apply your knowledge of lists and those ranges and things like that you all have studied to this.
Okay.
Basically, all of this, what we are doing now is we are just applying that stuff that you all have already learned. We're just applying it to geometry now.
Okay.
This is something that you all will really need to master if you really want to master patterning. This is very basic. Start with this, and then if you guys get an idea of this, we will try to do what we see here. We're getting errors already. That's because these things don't match properly. What I did here is not matching. If I just make this change this back to A, then I won't have my errors. Okay, so you guys should ensure that you don't have any errors towards that end. Okay, even if you have graphics that shows, make sure you don't have any errors. Done?
Sir, can you share this file?
Enthused here.
We are enthused, sir.
Everybody
Sir, can
else?
you share this?
Yeah, I'll share this file. I'll put this on. I'll put this on Classroom only. Okay.
Okay.
I just post this on Classroom. I'll just call this what? What shall I call this? Cross pattern. I'll just call it, what, a diagram.
Basis of pattern formation.
Huh? It's called a diagrid. So I'll call it diagrid and I'll just put it on Classroom.
Okay.
Please study this and try to understand every step of this, because I'm going to expect you all to take this further. If you all want, I mean, if you all want examples of how this can get a lot more complex, you all can look at my website. Basically, where is it? I think I've got lots of examples of that. If you go to this Git book, basically on my website, and go to patterns, see lots of applications of stuff like this.
Wow, when can we reach that stage, sir?
You will if you just figure this out, you guys, and you'll have to keep practicing, Shannon.
Okay.
It's not necessarily very difficult. Okay, so all of this is basically it just takes what I've just showed you guys now a little forward. Now you see this next thing that I've got here. If you look at it, it is basically, this can be applied to what Rupesh had. Maybe not so dramatic and not so violent. Maybe a little something like that is what you probably need to apply to kind of Rupesh's pattern to get that random kind of stuff. Okay, so you can this patterning can be a very interesting thing for you guys. Everything that you see under this pattern section that I've got, pattern section that I've got, is all done basically almost completely based on what the concept will be similar to what I've just told you. It just gets more and more complex. That's it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Done? So just look at this. I've got all the code also there if you all want to, but it's mostly in design script. So it's not with nodes. Some of them seems like I've got nodes, but otherwise most of it is with design script. So that you can probably look at sometime. Okay. But for now, first task, as far as I'm concerned, is what did I ask you guys to do?
Triangle.
Rectangle from this square.
Create a rectangle and join the lines. Like
No,
join.
you don't need. See, actually, you will not need to do anything to this section.
Okay.
This portion will not need to be disturbed at all. I just want you all to understand now how this count is affected with this. So, in order to do that, you guys will probably need to study this whole thing all over again and understand this properly. But you all will not need to alter this portion at all. All that needs to be altered is here. And actually, what is fed into this. Any alteration will happen before this block. Until this count thing, only the feeding in will change, and only here. This portion does not need to be disturbed at all.
Curtain.
Okay, got it, sir.
So please try to understand what has happened. Go look at what I just showed you guys. Go to each of these. Try to understand which point is where and things like that. Click on it. You'll have to click on this and say preview to see which point that is. In fact, before saving it, I'll just unhide this. Okay. Once this is done, you guys can. You'll have to go to each of these points and figure out which point is where and things like that, and try to understand how this list is built. Okay, done. So exactly 1 hour. So I think I'll kind of stop for today, for now. Let me know if you guys want to. If you guys are successful with this, we'll meet up in the evening. Otherwise, in any case, let me know what time you want to have a wrap up session for the day. Okay.
Okay.
Done.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. I'll post this. You guys have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye.